coverage of course, Daytona 500 practice for the NASCAR Cup Series. It is the second 50-minute practice session of the week and the third consecutive day in which cars are on the racetrack at the high banks at the Daytona International Speedway. We are just a couple minutes away from getting this 50-minute practice session started. Approximately 5:35 p.m. they will have cars on the racetrack. And again, full 50-minute practice, second of three for the race weekend here for, again, the NASCAR Cup Series side of things. Appreciate everybody tuning in to what is now our third live commentary stream during the course of this NASCAR race weekend, and we still have many more to go. In fact, we'll only be halfway done with our content this weekend following today's streams. Yes, streams plural, because the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series will also be on later on today, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We are looking to get started for that one. And there will be about an hour break between streams following this practice session, which will end at about 6:30 p.m. Eastern. And then again, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, we will go live for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series side of things. You'll get to listen to some of the broadcasts during the course of this 50-minute practice session as well to highlight what we've already seen so far for the NASCAR Cup Series race weekend at Daytona. Kick-started things on Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. with the first 50-minute practice session. Fastest in that practice were a few of the Toyotas, including Denny Hamlin, who ended up topping the speed charts. After Hamlin had topped the charts, his teammate later on that night would qualify on the pole, that being Chase Briscoe with his new home in the number 19 Bass Pro Shops Toyota. So Briscoe survived the dual race. Then last night, he will still be starting on the pole for the Daytona 500. Meanwhile, Toyota kept their dominance alive as in dual race number 1. Bubba Wallace was able to get the race win, so he will be starting just behind his Joe Gibbs, I guess, counterpart, or Toyota counterpart in tomorrow, or Sunday's race, I should say, speaking. And Toyota, although they didn't get the clean sweep last night, it looked like Eric Jones was going to get the win in dual race number 2. Austin Cindric by a nose before the caution came out, less than 100 feet from the start-finish line to get the checkered flag, ends up in the right place at the right time, essentially, before he had gotten past as Jones was making the overtake. Caution came out for a crash in the middle of the tri-oval. NASCAR ended up waving the caution flag, and, well, the rest is history. Austin Cindric was able to go on and get the victory in that event. We'll have the starting lineup, obviously, for you a little bit later on in this broadcast. We'll kind of highlight that a little bit more. Waiting for cars to hit the racetrack as of right now to get this Cup Series practice started, and they're currently rolling their way towards pit road. Several drivers in a backup car following crashes in last night's duel. In fact, there are 8 names on that list, and those 8 names would include... Oh, I got to go back in the broadcast. I wasn't quick enough. I thought they were going to leave that graphic on for a little longer. I'm going to rewind it. We'll have the list of the 8 drivers that are going to a backup car popping up on my screen here shortly. Not on the screen for all of you to visually see, so I'm going to have to read it off. It's on Fox's broadcast. Visual purposes, Fox Sports 1 is airing this practice session, by the way, for the Daytona 500, and I believe FS2 for tomorrow's practice coverage. Xfinity Series actually just had a 50-minute practice session prior to this. I don't think I rewinded the broadcast enough. No, I did. Never mind. I actually rewinded it a little bit too far. Okay, so the 8 drivers who are going to go to a backup car following crashes within both dual races last night would include Daniel Suarez, Shane Van Gisbergen, Ty Gibbs, Alex Bowman, Riley Herbst, Justin Haley, Brad Keselowski, and Kyle Larson. And I'm actually kind of surprised that Helio Castroneves' name is not on that list as well. Maybe they didn't have a backup car for the number 91 specifically, so they have to repair the primary, or maybe they are able to repair it, but he took a couple of hard licks in his crash in dual race number 1, but sounds like he is not going to be in a backup car after all. All right, now I'll fast forward to the live coverage where practice has already started. Again, this is the second 50-minute practice session for the NASCAR Cup Series, and there are cars on the racetrack. It looks like the time started about 2.5 minutes ago, but nobody has completed a lap quite yet. Could have banner on the raw feed. Obviously, their practice session is done. I had to do that for the dual races last night, too. There we go. Quite a few cars are already on the track and have completed a lap. Denny Hamlin at the top of the speed charts early alongside Riley Herbst, Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, top four, all Toyotas. No surprise, I'd say as a manufacturer, Toyota looks to be the favorite for the Daytona 500. Fords are all in a single file line and in a pack right now. Let's see here. Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, Austin Cindric, the three Penske cars leading that pack. As of right now, it is single file for the moment. Behind the three Penskes, it looks like the four of Noah Gregson's in there, and both of the Front Row Motorsport Fords also, along with Gregson, that being Zane Smith and Todd Gillen, are in this group. So Penske and Front Row working together here. A couple Chevys have clung on to the back of this pack. I saw that William Byron was up there, and there is a chance that the 35 of Riley Herbst is also in this group of cars. Kind of a dusk setting right now. This is really about where we be for the finish of tomorrow's or Sunday's race if it does finish on time. Right around this 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. Although that would have been the case before they moved the start time up an hour, so maybe it'll get done just before this. But if we're looking at similar track conditions, this would be more for the finish of the race. And tomorrow's practice session would maybe help gear these adjustments towards the start of the race. Yeah, there are a couple Hendrick Chevrolets in this Ford group. I noticed Byron already, and then Chase Elliott's also up there, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Kyle Busch. So 4 Chevys on the back of the 7 Fords that are out on the track. I actually missed that the 21 car of Josh Berry was also up there. Kyle Busch, who's at the very tail end of this line of about 10 cars, has just posted the fastest lap of practice. Only to be topped by Ricky Stenhouse Jr. the last time by as well. Oh, and Busch right back to the top again. .823, fastest lap for Busch. Already it looks like the speeds are up compared to what we were seeing for most of the dual races yesterday. Chance overnight for a lot of these teams to make some adjustments after having the 60 lap, what pretty much was a practice session for all the chartered entries, and an actual race itself for the non-chartered entries to try to get into the show. Did I notice the race got moved up? Yeah, I already did. I put a community tab post out a little over a half hour before the start of the stream. Yeah, start time for Sunday is going to be 12:30 p.m. Eastern, so we're just going to have to move our stream up an hour. No big deal. And even if there's some sort of a rain delay, which looks like it's not going to get started at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, we're still going to go live at 12:30 regardless, if there is a race or not. I haven't looked at the updated forecast for Sunday. They're not a full screen commercial break on FS1 right now, so I might as well look at it. Let's pull that up real quick. This is going to be according to the Weather Channel. Lap times are constantly changing up at the top of the leaderboard. That's one thing with practice on a super speedway. We're definitely going to see changes in lap time pretty much all over the place. For the entirety of this 50 minutes. And I will say that you're going to see pretty much every race car on the track make a decent amount of laps in this practice. I don't think you're going to see as many cars on the track. I would not be shocked if some of them don't practice at all tomorrow. Basically 4 practice sessions when you include the dual races last night. It's single car practice for the most part on Wednesday. Then the duels. This is more the drafting practice. And tomorrow, as if there are some cars that are really struggling this weekend, it gives them an extra 50 minutes still to try to make the fine-tune adjustments needed to help them for the 67th running of the Daytona 500 for when the race begins. So Toyotas were looking quick right off the rip. After they had gone out, set their laps, quickly the Fords have surpassed them in the speed department. We have one Chevy, which is Austin Dillon at the top of the leaderboard, and then after that, Zane Smith, Ryan Blaney, Austin Cindric, Joey Logano, Noah Gragson, Josh Berry, Todd Gilliland, 2nd through 7th, all Fords. Although it looks like that has even changed now as you look at our list and coming back from the commercial break, now William Byron's at the top. So all those Fords got bumped down. Chevy's taking control for the time being. 46.17, fastest lap, by the way, for Byron in the 24. Well, I believe it's still towards the tail end of that line of Fords. So it is very well possible that Byron and Elliott might have bridged a gap between themselves and the rest. All 4 cars that are at the tail end of that 10-car line are the top 4. So that is noteworthy. Definitely leads me to believe that they hung back trying to get a run for a lap. Put themselves to the top. Everybody's just trying to learn where they can get the runs on the racetrack. Try to time it out the best for when they're making passes in the race, especially when we get down to the closing portion of the race. Looks like caution's out on the speedway here.
Caution light on here.
Not sure what for. Might be debris.
Debris in turn 3.
Yep.
Here's the call. Here's your Toyota driver profile on Christopher Bell. 2 straight top 3 finishes in the Daytona 500 and 4 straight playoff appearances. Just missed making the championship for this year. 23 top 10 finishes. All right, they'll clean up debris and we'll put cars back on track and continue Friday rush hour here in Daytona.
Headed to a commercial break. Caution again for debris in turn 3. Our first yellow of this practice session. I believe all 50 minutes of yesterday's practice went caution free. Had a couple of debris yellows in the first dual race yesterday as well. After we had seen a couple of crashes to start the event. Again, the dual race winners last night, for anybody that might have missed it, was not able to catch any sort of highlights earlier this afternoon as well. Bubba Wallace won dual race number 1, and Austin Cindric from the pole won dual race number 2. Definitely had some racy moments pretty much all the way through. Non-stop action all the way from start to finish of Duel 1, and then even in Duel 2, despite saving fuel for pretty much the entire first half of that race, had that caution in the final 20 laps, and it really ratcheted things up. Even just before the caution came out through the green flag pit stops, you could definitely tell teams were pushing, trying to get the best track position they could at that point. Interesting to watch the non-chartered entries have to race each other in both duels as well, coming down to the final lap as it usually does to see who's going to make the show. The 4 non-chartered entries for this weekend that did qualify for the Daytona 500 were on qualifying speed Wednesday night for Jimmy Johnson and Martin Truex Jr. Last night in the duels, Justin Allgaier for Junior Motorsports, as well as that was in duel number 1. He qualified there. Duel number 2, we ended up having a brain fart here. We're going to have to look at it. I was at work all day today. Well, they haven't even hit the track yet, so I guess I can't even look at it. That's sad. I'm going to have to look up the results of the race. I didn't get any notes planned for this stream, by the way, as you can tell. I was hoping it would come to me. As soon as I see it, I'm going to be like, duh. So I clearly watched the race last night. Been up since 5 a.m. On top of streaming late the last few days still. Well, we'll listen to the broadcast while I look that up. Such a dummy.
That's got to feel good.
Yeah, well, when you're used to winning as much as Michael Jordan, you expect trophies. Bringing that to Bubba was like, all right, here, I got you. I got you this year. We got off to a good start.
What a compound he has back there. Looking back from Ryan Preece at teammate Chris Buescher.
Yeah, we all believe that Ryan Preece has a fast car. We know Chris Buescher was in position to win that race off of he's lucky that he still has a race car. He put themselves in a position to where they had the block and kind of staggered those blocks last night and had that wreck that we had in the second duel. But he could have very easily been turned around while he was throwing that last block.
I believe these RFK cars are going to be fast and of course be rich.
And I still believe, and I think you do as well, listening to the Fords talk, they still handle well, they still push well, they still have an upper hand as far as the total package, it seems here.
Now, Larry, their teammate Brad Keselowski had to go to a backup.
Corey LaJoie raced his way in last night. Can't believe I forgot that.
Usually you see people going to backup.
He had a top 10 too.
And let me stress, if you have damage like from the dual race, you can't just make the decision on your own.
Whoops.
Backup car. NASCAR has to approve on the backup car, and that would be if you have structure damage, if you have roll cage damage. What was going on with the 6 car after that wreck last night? There's conicals on the frame, and what a conical is, it's a locating device for NASCAR's inspection process, and they were completely rubbed off. That means they could not take their car through the inspection process, the optical scanning station. For that reason, they had to go to a backup car.
4-car Chevrolet draft here. And they are at the top of the speed chart, led by William Byron at 194.9. Maybe 5 cars right here. If Alex Bowman tucks in.
Yeah, we see Ricky Stenhouse at the front of that pack, and the 9 car of Chase Elliott able to tuck right up underneath the back bumper of that car. And when you see those hood flaps start to go up, that's when, as a driver, you know you're doing a pretty good job and your spacing is close enough and you're right next to the bumper or on the back bumper of the car in front of you, because that air starts coming out from underneath the hood. As you get closer, you'll see the hood flaps start to flutter on that 9 car if he gets close enough.
I think Stenhouse, watching him right there, didn't see much of him, last night in the duels. That's somebody that you always expect to see up front when the time's right. Daytona 500 with his big win right in the past. And I think he's out there looking for some speed in that car, and I bet they find it. You watch.
And maybe that's
that
why
orange car will be back up.
Maybe that's why the 9 can push him so good, because his car's a little off on speed. And sometimes there you see that
right up to it, kind of at will by itself as well.
Sometimes it's better to have a car that's a little bit slower that you can actually catch and push and stay attached to the bumper. But
as long as you can keep them behind you, right? Put them in a spot where they have no choice but to push you. You can see he's able to push him well, right on the bumper, and pretty much stay attached to it.
Yeah, and these are going to be really fast laps, because if we pan out and quick enough and be able to look at the group in front of them, you'll see on the back straightaway, there's a group in front of these guys as they come off of turn 2. You'll see that little bit of half a straightaway right there. That's going to make that second line faster back there.
And it's also going to see this change up into here. Watch this.
Yeah, you've got the 9 really pushing the 47, and
they're catching that group quick.
Yeah, they're getting a toe off of that group in front of them. Even though they're that far away, they're able to get a draft off that group in front of them.
I'm very impressed by how much he can stay attached, and I say Chase Elliott attached to that 47 car. If they can do that on Sunday, that is potentially a dangerous thing. Those guys can be very dangerous to the competition.
Yeah, and as you see those cars go side by side off the exit of turn 2, that'll even help that second group. Yeah, and as you see the mile per hour up on top of the screen that we had, you can just see this difference in speed. Even though it's less cars, it's got more draft.
I wouldn't be surprised if they don't go to the top 4 this time. They've got them connected. You see Austin Hillman and Kyle Larson behind them.
Yeah, we know those cars are already fast at the top of the board, but I mean, as you see the 9 pull out a line right there, that'll slow that lap down a little bit as they cross the start finish line.
Most of the field, yeah. Last lap 47.56. That's about half a second off the fastest lap here. 47.08 for Stenhouse on that last lap. About 0.8 slower than his best lap today.
You heard me talk about those Penske cars earlier in the show, and I feel like if as close as the field is, and I'm going to say this again, said it last night, I think this year, manufacturer-wise, is as close as I've ever seen. There's really not one that sticks out more than the other. But if I had to pick a favorite for myself and put some money on, those Penske guys mean business. The cars handle good and they have speed.
And last night they had them beat. If it wasn't in that second duel, the Fords had them absolutely whooped. If it wasn't for those blocks and that trouble on the last lap,
They did a good job in their pit
they
stop.
still wound up winning, but it would have been a long ways.
31 to go in Friday afternoon practice for the Cup Series. Now, are the Toyota drivers all done? We'll find out when we come back.
This is
Just trying to look up the weather for Daytona International Speedway. They are on a commercial break again, full screen on Fox Sports 1 for this 50-minute second practice session for the NASCAR Cup Series. Kind of got sidetracked. I was looking up the weather for my area. I didn't realize we were supposed to get 7 inches of snow tonight. I knew I had a snowstorm coming in. I didn't think it was going to be that big. I might not be working tomorrow morning. We'll see. I'm scheduled for a few hours in the morning. It's not supposed to start snowing until like 2 o'clock in the morning here, so I'll probably end up having to go in still. Hopefully I make it back here before the start of that ARCA race. I should. It shouldn't take me 2 hours to get home, but you never know. Yeah, looking at the weather for Sunday, with moving the start time up, it definitely looks like they'll get things started on time. Kind of stunk that there's even rain in the forecast for Sunday, because when I looked just a couple days ago, it was less than 40%. Now it's a 70% chance of rain. Crazy how things change just 2 days later as far as the weather goes. Tell you what, somebody pissed off the Mother Nature racing gods at the Daytona International Speedway for this weekend specifically, the last few years. Parents are at the track. Hopefully they keep dry. Maybe it'll miss the track and we'll get lucky. One can hope. Get that vortex theory going. Brendan Kennedy, thanks for tuning in. Excited for the new NASCAR season? Oh yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. William Walton Jr., thanks for tuning into the stream. As far as getting to halfway, I don't know. I'm not even going to predict that. We're so far away still from the start of the race. We have 2 days until the 500 yet. I'll have a better gauge once we get, into an hour or so before the race begins, because then we can have a better gauge of exactly what time it's going to rain. That could get moved back an hour. It could get moved up an hour or two from what we're looking right now. I mean, they weren't even calling for above 50% chance of rain until I looked at the weather just today. It might have even been last night during the duels when I checked it, and it was only a 40% chance. I definitely remember seeing a 40% chance of rain for Sunday at some point in the last couple days, and now it's 70. Get an interview here with Bubba Wallace in the garage area.
Did what? Old MJ last night. What was that? That was cool. He was up on the back track blocking. He was pumped for us. We had a good time. So glad to have him here. I think his whole crew, his whole entourage shows up today. So we'll have a good time tonight. Enjoy the truck race. But yeah, we're done practicing. Didn't get all the things that I wanted to get checked off the list, but I feel like we had a really, really strong McDonald's Toyota Camry. So I'm going to enjoy these nerds that a young fan just gave me, and go hang out with my wife and son. And I'm done for the weekend until Sunday. There you go, Bo. Thanks, Captain.
Well, you can tell him the practice isn't over, Josh. He can go ahead and get back in if he has more on his list.
Now, the pit assignments have been done for Sunday. Pole sitter Chase Briscoe will take the first pit stall. And you see them practicing coming in and exiting the pit stalls. Last night, we had a lot of fuel-only stops. And let's start out with old school. Okay, here's Chris Butcher. Get the can in, a couple of seconds, away he's gone. Did he get 3 seconds worth of fuel? I'm not sure. But there away he goes. So teams have found different ways to enhance the timed fuel-only stop. Someone at the front of the car signal the driver out, perhaps like that. And maybe a couple of drivers in here. Joe Gibbs Racing has added technology.
Technology.
The timed fuel pit stop. Regan?
It's really pretty impressive how quick this garage can innovate and find new ways to actually get quicker with what's going on these pit stops. Pit stops, of course, very critical with the fuel mileage that's going on in these races at Daytona right now. And every thousandth of a second, much like every thousandth of an inch on these race cars, every thousandth of a second in the pits matters right now. Joe Gibbs Racing, of course, you saw the iPads there. The iPad comes out on the crew guy's hand. He will tap that iPad. It'll start the time. When that timer runs out, the light goes green. Instead of the crew chief having to reach up and grab the top of his radio to say, go, 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 which could be a tenth, it could be a half of a second, whatever it is, instead of that, now they can save that time. And when they get back to the racetrack, it may save 2 or 3 positions. I love when we get this new innovation down here.
Yeah, and you know, it saves time, but the other thing that it does is it puts it in the driver's hand, which is somewhat questionable, which that's the way this race is.
I might leave a little early.
Yeah, I was going to say, if Clint was driving, we wouldn't use the iPad. But I think that it allows the crew chief to look down pit road to be ready to call that car out of the box. It's the driver's responsibility to go on green. But it also allows the crew chief to be ready to call that car out of the box so it's safe, efficient, and everything that you can do from efficiency, the more details you can stack. And that's just another one that I'm sure everybody else will catch on to now.
Well, but look at this car right here, Busher. And I remember this last night. If you go back to that, he had a little bit of trouble. That caution kind of saved them. They didn't get all the fuel in it that they wanted to or expected to. The caution saved them and enabled them to get to the end. But it has to have the guy get it plugged in, because when that clock starts, it's the seconds that they need, right?
And the other thing that happens too, we showed a couple of those fueling videos. There was a couple guys in front of the fueler. One is to probably stop to tell the fueler to unplug, because that's when the front of the car will be out of the pit box and you can't really have that, that would be a penalty. But the other thing is, in case he falls or something, they're there too. But really that's for that guy to make sure that he can stop the fuel guy, because the car is going to be out of the pit box area.
Yeah, I like that backup plan the most. We've seen those, the fuel tanks get out of the pit box and come in for a penalty, and that could be there to keep that from happening.
All right, Larry Mack, we got a Fords out here on the racetrack trying to accomplish what?
Well, other than that one caution, they've been out there running ever since this track opened for practice. They've now completed 26 laps, which is exactly what they told me they were going to do, a long run. This is more than a half a fuel run. They're learning what their car does as it burns that fuel off. But the other thing they've been doing, I've been watching closely, they've been letting different ones lead the pack. That's information you can use on Sunday. I know these cars are very close to one another, but maybe just the way the body's put on one car versus another, it may lead the pack faster than another car, even of the same manufacturer.
Will be another one tomorrow to get everybody tuned up. And hey, there's Elliot Castroneves' car. Ripped after last night.
Yeah, I'm shocked that they were able to repair that 91 car for even today's practice. We'll see if Castroneves is going to turn a lap at all. There are several drivers, surprisingly, that haven't turned a lap yet. It looks like we have 30 drivers who have made 1 lap in practice so far out of the 41 that will be seen race on Sunday. It looks like the only 2 non-chartered entries that have practiced today would be Jimmy Johnson and Martin Truex Jr. Corey LaJoie hasn't turned a lap yet. Actually, neither of the Rick Ware Racing Fords have turned a lap. And then Justin Allgaier in the 40 for Junior Motorsports also hasn't made a lap yet. Fastest lap for William Byron still at 46.172, which was put up in the first half of practice. Byron's turned 11 laps so far. Some drivers have turned a little more than 25 laps, utilizing the entirety of the 50 minutes up to this point, which so far we've gone for about 29 minutes, so a little bit past halfway through this session. We'll take a full rundown of the entire leaderboard here. William Byron is first overall in practice. Chase Elliott second. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. third. Kyle Busch fourth. Austin Dillon fifth. Zane Smith in sixth. Todd Gilliland seventh. Joey Logano eighth. Kyle Larson ninth. And Ryan Blaney is 10th. Austin Cindric 11th. Noah Gragson 12th. Josh Berry 13th. John Hunter Nemechek 14th. Eric Jones 15th. Chase Briscoe 16th. Martin Truex Jr. 17th. Alex Bowman 18th, 19th for Christopher Bell and Bubba Wallace in 20th. Ty Gibbs 21st. 22nd for Ryan Preece, Chris Buescher 23rd, Denny Hamlin 24th, Riley Herbst 25th. Tyler Reddick 26th, Michael McDowell 27th, Jimmy Johnson 28th. Ross Chastain 29th, Carson Hocevar 30th, and Cole Custer now on the track for the first time at 31st, though he has not completed a lap yet. Most laps ran, it looks like 30 laps now have been eclipsed by the Penske Fords of Cindric, Blaney, and Logano. Gilliland in that group has also ran 30 laps. And I believe Gragson at 26, just a few less than them. 29 for Josh Berry. So those are the most laps we've seen turned so far in this practice session. Once again, a reminder, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, we'll be live for our NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race later tonight. It'll be the first points-paying race of Speed Week. Outside of the duels, I guess technically points were on the line last night for those top 10 positions, but first full points race. 100 laps, 250 miles, that scheduled distance. Our stage splits will be 20, 20, and 60.
That was Joey Logano's radio.
Can you hear him say he's good? I mean, you don't know they're playing. They're just throwing ideas of things that we've run through before. And, you know, they definitely went through the whole cycle of front to back and back to front, run it, see who's fastest in the front, see who's fastest in second. Because that second place car has a big responsibility. Who's the best pusher to be able to push that leader and keep that speed up of that group and keep that leader shoved as far forward as possible?
Yeah, and actually that's where I was going with that before that caution came out, is trying to figure out, you know, we used to go out there all the time ourselves, Kevin, figure out who pulls the line faster than the next car. One of those cars will.
Oh, by the way, it's raining.
Oh, no.
We've had this heavy overcast all day. And I mean, really thick, heavy overcast. And apparently some of those aren't rain clouds. So a bit of a sprinkle here puts us under caution. Yeah, don't forget that tune-in time on Sunday. Everything is happening an hour earlier because of Mother Nature.
Yeah, and you see Chris Buescher right there talking to Brad Keselowski and using his hands. We all use our hands, but they're talking through the scenarios that they just went through in this practice session of things that they wanted to work on, whether they were better or worse, what worked for me. And this is a constant evolution of learning. And that learning comes through conversation with your teammate, things that you see and watching everything that is going on. So it's definitely a process to keep getting smarter.
Now, only 30 of the 41 starters have been out on the track in practice. Keselowski is one of those who did not take a lap.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. That's what I was going to say. Brad didn't get out there, actually, so he was very interested in what he felt for a race car. Chris Buescher. Regan?
Well, Clint, a moment ago, as we went to break, we showed a rolling race car that was Helio Castroneves' car. Of course, that thing was destroyed last night in multiple impacts. Take a look at this, something we don't get to see very often at the racetrack. This was actually the front end that came off of his car from last night. They took the entire thing off this morning, engine and all completely inside of it, unbolted it. They went and got the other front clip that they could put on here. This is this morning right here. That car, there was no parts and pieces on it. It was completely stripped apart. They bolted up the new front end onto the race car, stuck an engine in that thing, as well as the back bumpers and all the parts and pieces you see there. And right now, this car is actually down, going through technical inspections, getting the early technical inspections done on it right now. Absolutely impressive what these guys have done overnight. Of course, Trackhouse tore up 3 of their 4 race cars last night, and with 2 of the other teams needing a backup, they decided to repair this one. That's why they were into this situation, but these guys have been working all day nonstop.
Hats off to those guys. It is hard to put into words how much work goes into those cars. And putting a front clip on that thing, I mean, the car looks like they literally built a race car right here before our very eyes.
Here's
And
the
Rebecca
slide.
caused it.
Chandler Smith up and into the wall. Chester Nevis got caught up in that, and then he got down to the apron, and the right rear wanted to steer itself and did right up and into the wall.
And Kevin, obviously that was a huge hit that it took to the right front right there, but you tell me all the time with this new car and as low as it is, tell me about this one right here.
Yeah, when you hit the apron right here and that car pounds the ground right there, that's a really difficult impact for the driver, and the compression with your spine and everything that comes through the seat. Those are big hits, and I think Elio learned a lot last night about
Not doing that.
slowing that car down, because that second hit probably could have definitely been avoided. But this isn't easy.
Those guys have worked their tails off. Congratulations.
Heavy overcast and a little bit of rain on Friday afternoon here.
Paper trails coming off that day. That is awesome.
All right, so under slight rain caution, if you will. Kind of misty at the racetrack. Nothing major. They haven't lost the racetrack up to this point. I don't even think the jet dryers are out there at the moment. Hopefully we can get back racing shortly, or at least back to practice shortly. Less than 15 minutes remain in this entire 50-minute practice session as well. So even if we do get back to green flag, I don't think we're going to see many cars get back out on the racetrack as well. Ace Alshire, thanks for tuning into the stream. JoJo, welcome in as well. Once again, William Byron, top of the speed charts for right now. Chase Elliott second, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. third, Kyle Busch fourth, Austin Dillon fifth, Zane Smith sixth, Todd Gilliland seventh, Joey Logano eighth, ninth for Kyle Larson, and Ryan Blaney rounds out the top 10. Just over 36 minutes into the 50. Obviously, even with the caution out right now, time is not going to be extended for this practice session, so it looks like it will be coming to an end here shortly. We'll still stay live until that clock hits 0. And then we'll have our roughly 1 hour break in between streams, and we'll be back at 7:30 p.m. Eastern tonight for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race. Ran just over a half hour of practice before the raindrops started hitting the speedway, resulting in a caution. This is actually our second caution of the session. There was a caution for debris about 10 minutes in as well. So while we wait out the yellow, when they come back from the commercial break, I'll let you listen into the broadcast a little bit more. See what the Fox booth has to say about what we've seen so far in practice, and what maybe to expect during practice tomorrow as well, as we still have another 50 minutes left. Frank Powers, welcome into the stream. Do I know if the truck gets some hot laps? As far as like practice goes, I did see that they had practice rained out completely yesterday. And I think qualifying was earlier this afternoon for the Craftsman Truck Series, so they would have had laps in qualifying. As far as practice goes, I don't think they had any, unfortunately. So I believe there's truck qualifying, then Xfinity practice, then Cup practice, leading into, obviously, the truck race a little bit later on.
Brought to you by Toyota. Goodyear Blimps here for the truck race tonight. 100 years of Goodyear Blimp. Glad to have them with us. That's how you know you're at a big sporting event.
It's not the only thing here for the truck race. You're here for the truck race, aren't
I
you?
am here for the truck race. Yeah, I will be calling the truck race right after this.
Kevin Harvick in the truck booth. There we go.
And Austin Cindric's victory. Eric Jones, great disappointment. And here is why. On the final lap coming off. Turn number 4. Cars get all piled up and the caution light comes on. Rider 2, the start-finish line. There's the light. Austin Cindric ahead of Eric Jones.
I still don't think they should have thrown the caution,
The moment of caution decides the winner.
considering how close they were to the start-finish line. Yeah.
Heartbreaker for Eric Jones. Eric Jones did a great job. That all transpired. He set that up off of turn 2, Kevin, and it rolled right off into the exit of turn 4 and put him in a really good position to win that race. I was impressed with his move.
You want to be the last car to pull out a line to be at the front of the line, and he squeezed himself up right in front of that outside lane at the perfect time to put himself in position to have a chance to win. Got back to the start-finish line first, but when the caution came out, Austin Cindric wound up winning the race.
But I mean, he almost stole that show. Goes right back to those Penske cars that I talked about. I mean, I didn't think anybody till the exit of turn 4. Then he actually got underneath Logano, opened that gap up, and that drag race was on.
All right, let's go to the garage and check with Josh.
Well, down here with Brad Keselowski going to the backup car, so you didn't get a chance to practice yet, but I saw the combo with Chris Buescher. What were you picking up from what he was able to learn out there today?
Yeah, I just want to see how the cars are driving. And, every year I feel like you come down here and the cars in the duel still have a little bit of their qualifying trim in them, Josh, and they don't drive as great. And you're like, yeah, all right, we'll see. When we take some of that out, is it better? Does it still have good speed? And just kind of trying to understand it. Both of our arcade cars look like they're driving really good. They drove good yesterday, too, but unfortunately, I don't have the same one. But we were going to try to get out here today, but we got some more work to do. It doesn't look like we're going to get out there in time, but I was ready, all dressed. I'm going to go back to the bus.
Well, there you go. Appreciate your time as always, Brad. Regan?
Well, Josh, all the drivers getting out of the race cars, having conversations. Kyle Larson and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. down here talking about their cars. We saw you guys out there in the draft together. First off, backup car for you. Did you learn what you needed to about this car in the draft?
Yeah, I mean, I think we had a productive practice just because we were off on speed. So I think now, we can go and fluff on it and try and get some speed out of it. So yeah, balance wise, I was a little bit tight. It was hard for me to hang on to the draft, where I was at in line. So it's frustrating to be the last car and not being able to hang on, but at the same point, it shows that we're off on speed. So we can go to work on it and try and like I said, fluff on it and get a little bit better. So once you get in the big pack and stuff, I don't think it necessarily matters a whole lot, but yeah, for practice, it's a struggle. It's a struggle when you're that slow.
Ricky, we saw you out there leading the pack some. We know how to win these Daytona 500s. Did it a couple of years ago. Is your car getting tuned into where you need it to be good on Sunday as well?
I definitely felt better about our Sunday Camaro there in that practice session than we did in the duel last night. The cautions fell exactly wrong last night. We never got to be able to flip that track position, but yeah, went down, talked to Chase, and was kind of talking to Kyle here about just that drafting session that we had, and Chase and I were talking about things that maybe we could do different if we were in that situation again, but thought he pushed us really well, and hopefully we can get a Camaro in victory lane come Sunday, and all of us work really well together.
How important, guys, are these practice sessions and the duels as well in terms of building relationships as the week goes on? By the time you get to Sunday, knowing which cars you work best with, obviously you're both in Camaros, but knowing which cars you work best with, who's better out front, who's better maybe, pushing the pack and different things like that.
I mean, for me, Ricky's my buddy, so it doesn't matter. Even when he was a different manufacturer, we'd always seem to find each other out there. But I do think it, helps being out there, at least, trying to just, like you said, learn some different things about how pushes work, how you position yourself, how hard you make a run at somebody. So I unfortunately didn't get to do any of that there, but, out of my windshield, it looked like, Chase was definitely pushing him really well. Which Chase, I feel like for the Chevy guys is probably the best pusher. At least when he's been behind me, I feel the most comfortable. So, but yeah, it is good to get that opportunity to kind of work together a little bit. And like, he said, when it comes down to the end of the race, you're really starting to push like that. So you can learn a lot.
Good to have friends out here, isn't it?
It's great to have friends. And like Hal said, I mean, you want to get yourself around other people and, just build confidence in other people around you that, Chase knows that he can push me pretty hard now when it comes down to it. And if we need to go to the front, we can. But everybody knows how, these speedway races are. You can have all these plans. You can practice drafting. You can draft all race with people. When it comes down to it, you could look around you and none of your friends are left. So I've been in that situation a few times where you look around and all your bow tie friends are, gone, or, vice versa. And you're surrounded by another manufacturer. Kind of go out on an island, do it yourself. But, I felt, we gained a lot of confidence there in that practice session.
Well, it gets to the end of this race. All bets are off, gloves are off. Everything has to happen for the moment, Mike.
Thanks, Regan. 6.5 minutes left. Those drivers are still hopeful of getting back on track. Well, that one's not. Mark Truex headed back for the garage. So is Carson Hocevar.
I doubt we're going to get back to green flag action at this point. We only have 5.5 minutes left on the running 50-minute clock. Again, truck race coming up in a little over an hour from now, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll also be live tomorrow for a triple header of NASCAR coverage on the channel, starting with the ARCA race at noon Eastern time, followed by final practice for the NASCAR Cup Series at 3 p.m. Eastern, and our Xfinity Series race coverage at 5 p.m. Eastern. So, whole block of racing action tomorrow on the channel, triple header. And this is the first stream of 2 today for our double header. Sunday, start time for the Daytona 500 announced a few hours ago that it was going to be moved up an hour, so our stream has been moved up an hour as well. We will still go live 1 hour before the start of the race, only this time it'll be at 12:30 p.m. Eastern instead of 1:30, because now the race is scheduled to start at about 1:30 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, or not tomorrow, excuse me, Sunday. They haven't moved any start times around for any of the other series. I don't think there's any rain in the forecast tomorrow, at least, so we should go on without any hiccups as far as the ARCA, Xfinity, and Cup final practice goes. And I believe qualifying for the Xfinity Series is going to be tomorrow morning as well. I will not be doing commentary for that specifically, but we will be live from noon onward. I'm just hoping I don't lose power with the snowstorm that's going to come in. That would suck. I need all my internet connection prepared for the streams this weekend. Michael Williams, thanks for tuning in. ARCA races tomorrow at noon. So noon tomorrow. Coworker told me we might get up to 15 inches of snow between Wednesday and Thursday in Jersey. I would take what they say with a grain of salt, because I feel like 15 inches of snow is rare anywhere. So, I mean, that's like, unless you live I know like Buffalo gets like a lot of snow with the lake effect, and there's some other areas, even Cleveland, which is fairly close to where I live. About once or twice a year, they're good for about a foot of snow in one sitting. But 15 inches is a lot. You're getting snow also? Yeah, apparently. It said greater than 7 inches over the next 48 hours. In my area. Not snowing in Daytona Beach, Florida, I'll tell you that much. Let's look up my daily forecast. So I'm supposed to get 1 to 3 inches of snow tomorrow, and then 3 to 5 on Sunday. So if you do your math correctly there, they're expecting 4 to 8 inches in my area. Which is a pretty wide range. Which tells me that they're not exactly sure how much snow we're getting in my area. That's what it sounds like to me. I'm from Alaska, and that sounds intense. Ice storms are worse. Yeah, I've actually had a couple of ice storms the last couple of weeks, which is strange considering that we're getting ice instead. Less than 3 minutes left on the running clock. Got Keelan Harvick in the booth. What is this?
Excited about this.
I'm really excited. He's taught me a lot throughout my short career, and I'm really excited to.
Man, he's getting so big so
I'm
quick.
excited to whoop your butt. That's what I'm excited about. Keelan.
You've watched your dad race all these years. If somebody's holding him up like he's going to hold you up, what's he do?
Threaten his life if,
Yeah.
if he hits me. I'm the one paying for the.
I'll
for
pay for
his
it. Don't
car.
you worry about it. Move him out of the way.
You heard it.
Get that old news Harvick out of the way. Bring
Bill.
in the new guy. I like it.
Never a good idea to hit the car owner, right?
No, sir.
No.
Yeah, I think for me, it's going to be fun to be able to, race in my hometown of Bakersfield, California, and for us to be able to race against each other for the first time there is a lot of fun. So I think for me, it's pretty special. I know for him, it'll be a lot of fun. And I think for us to be able to talk about the same racetrack and learn from each other and be able for me to be a part of that progression as he's learning the cars. I finally feel like I'm at a point where I can help him with the go-karts and the legend cars. It was kind of a visual to be able to look back and help. So
Yeah.
we're going to have fun, and you're
So,
going to finish second.
Who gives better racing advice, Dad or Clint?
Definitely Clint.
Well, yes.
This is terrible. He's been up here trying to.
Buddy, you're in trouble.
He's been
You
up
are
here.
in the way. I can tell
He's
already.
been up here asking you how many girlfriends you have and whose phone numbers you have.
As soon as they see this, that's going to pick up. It's going to happen, Keelan. I'm telling you. Then when you knock your dad out of the way, Bakersfield, California, at his own track, it'll blow up.
The worst part about this is Keelan was here today and up in the booth and it rained. So now we're in the rain-filled piece of it, and your mom is going to be watching this on TV. And what's the first thing she's going to say?
My hair.
Yeah, she's not going to be happy about it, is she? She's going to think, if your hair's not done, you were lazy this morning. So now we're both in trouble.
Well, we didn't have, what Kyle just said, we didn't have time to fluff him up, man. They threw it
Yeah.
back to us. It wasn't our fault.
We can get you all fluffed up if you need. You know?
You want to throw to Josh for us?
Sure.
Okay,
Throw
good.
it to him.
Okay, Regan. Sorry, Regan.
Hey, Keelan, just so you know, when your hair's messed up, Chase Briscoe and I, we learned a long time ago, we just put a hat on. Now, part of that's because I don't have a lot of hair left, but that's one way to go. Chase Briscoe, of course, pole sitter for the 67th run in the Daytona 500 on Sunday, but you guys had a little more of an eventful night last night than what we thought. Tell me what happened to the nose of this race car.
Yeah, first off, I don't have any hair either, so I'm right there.
I was being nice.
Yeah, I appreciate it. But yeah, last night was chaotic. You know, we decided early that we were going to race, and it was somewhat calm, and it started getting a little crazy there, so I bailed, and then 2 laps later they crashed, and we were like, well, we're just riding around, and then yeah, hit a huge piece of debris and literally killed the nose of this thing. So it was a lot of work by our guys, you know, overnight trying to get it ready. So that was good there in practice for us to go back out there and just kind of get a feel for it. I feel like our Bass Pro Shop Toyotas is still really, really good. So yeah, obviously secured our spot now finally for the pole position on Sunday. So see if we can keep it up there.
All right, good luck on Sunday, and I like the hat. Nice hat.
All right. Well, practice has been called, and the 5 Chevys that were at the top of the board will stay there. William Byron, Chase Elliott, Ricky Stenhouse, Kyle Busch, and Austin Dillon. The Fast 5, then 3 Fords after that.
All right, so we're just going to go through the full leaderboard. As you heard there, practice is called. They were still left with a couple minutes left on the clock, but obviously not going to complete the full 50 minutes here. They got a little over a half hour of the 50 minutes in before slight rain had hit the racetrack. Covers were not on the cars for those that were just sitting on pit road hoping to get one last chance to get back out there before the 50 minutes were up. So that tells me that it was a quick come and go. But track obviously not dry enough to NASCAR's liking, so they'll get the jet dryers out there right now so we can get this truck race started on time in a little over an hour. Our full leaderboard then for this final practice, William Byron had the fastest lap of a 46.172. 13 laps ran for Byron overall, and he was about 0.03 of a second quicker than his teammate Chase Elliott, who was second on the speed charts. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. third, Kyle Busch fourth, Austin Dillon fifth. So 5 Chevrolets in the top 5 for practice. Then you have a couple of Fords just behind them. Zane Smith in 6th, Todd Gilliland 7th, Joey Logano 8th, Gregson 12th, Josh Berry 13th, John Hunter Nemechek 14th, and 15th for Eric Jones. Chase Briscoe, who is on the pole for the Daytona 500, was 16th. Martin Truex Jr. 17th, highest of the non-chartered entries that have made a lap for this practice session at least. Alex Bowman 18th, Christopher Bell 19th, and Bubba Wallace was 20th. Ty Gibbs 21st, Ryan Preece 22nd, Chris Buescher 23rd, Denny Hamlin 24th, Riley Herbst 25th, Tyler Reddick 26th, Michael McDowell 27th, Jimmy Johnson 28th, Ross Chastain 29th, Carson Hocevar 30th. Cole Custer scored 31st. He was on track right before the rain came, but didn't complete a lap before the caution, so that's why he is on the leaderboard in last, but no laps completed. As far as the driver who completed the most laps in the roughly just over half hour that we did have, 31 laps apiece for Cindric, Blaney, Logano, and Gilliland, so they ran the most. And again, all of those 4 in the top 10 overall. So still several drivers have not hit the racetrack for this 50-minute practice session. We'll more than likely see those 11 drivers at least hit the track in some facet tomorrow, some of which were in a backup car that did not turn a lap today. We'll probably see some of the same drivers that we see on this list have some last fine-tune adjustments, but I don't expect all 41 cars to hit the track tomorrow. I was actually expecting maybe all of them to hit the racetrack today and then less tomorrow, so we might have about the same amount of cars on track tomorrow evening. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. We'll just have to wait and see how that goes. Again, final practice will be at 3 p.m. Eastern. Header of streaming on this Fast Friday Daytona 500 edition. And we will be back here in about an hour's time. This is going to wrap up our second Cup practice stream for this weekend. Appreciate everybody that had tuned in for the last 60 minutes or so. Be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done so as we're signing off. I'll see you guys in an hour for the truck race on a different stream. Get some refuelage of your own, and we'll be back better than ever to watch some racing here later.